Hi, my name is Ari, and I'm the founder of collegementoring.org, dedicated to guiding and inspiring students through the transition from high school to universities and colleges. Today, I'm honored to be speaking with Yuvanand, who has achieved remarkable success throughout his journey from Evergreen Valley High School in San Jose, California. To start us off, could you please introduce yourself and share which college or university you're attending to right now?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Yuvanand. I go to the University of California, San Diego. I'm a second year computer engineering major right now.
How did you decide what courses you wanted to take back in high school, and how do you think they impacted your college application process?
Um, so the first step that I followed, these are the general steps I followed. I refined these to be a little bit more general so that more people can follow this. But the very first step was just finding some major that you're interested in. So for example, for me, I knew I wanted to be in tech. So that, gave me a couple of options: computer science, computer engineering, also electrical engineering. There are many engineering majors out there, but I think these kind of were what I found the most interesting. So I would say first you want to, do as much research as you can for the major that you're looking forward to going into, and what you think you want your career to be. And you want to make sure the field is both interesting to you and monetizable, because I know money is very important for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And so once you go through, all the majors that you might find on, let's say, online, chances are at least one or two majors will interest you, and maybe they'll relate to, or intersect with your hobbies as well. Um, that would be, probably the perfect major for you. For example, there are some majors that are intersections of two fields. If you consider bioengineering, it's biology and some sort of engineering, probably electrical engineering. Um, Things like that, where if you can find a major that you're both interested in, it's monetizable, it kind of intersects with some of your hobbies, that would probably be the way to go.
When you're talking about like these different types of topics like bioengineering, engineering, uh how would you like elaborate further on that, like in a sense that saying, um like if I find a more if I'm like more driven towards biology than engineering, would you recommend me going into, or for example me, would you recommend me going into bioengineering, or leaning more towards biology?
Uh, that I think that really just depends on kind of what exactly you're feeling. Do you think you want to be, more in the biology field, or completely in biology separate from computer science? Maybe that's a thing you can do, is where if you completely want to go into biology, then there's just the biology major. Um, but if you want a little bit of both, then I would recommend taking bioengineering or bioinformatics, because that will contain, the best of both worlds. While if you're not really interested in engineering or computer science, you could just go straight for the full, biology major.
Okay, perfect. So, based on your experiences, what advices or tips would you have for like current high school students who are navigating their college application process? Do you have any like insights you wish you knew back then in high school that you think could help you now?
Yeah, so um, I would say uh, the very basic things to do would be to take the classes at your school that relate to what you're interested in. And um, for example, for computer science, there are two AP courses that are within computer science that you can take. Sometimes for some majors, you might not have classes in a school that uh, classes that are offered related to that major. So what you can do is the next best thing is clubs, for sure. Sometimes there won't be classes offered. So what you can do is you can go to clubs, meet the same people over and over who are interested in what you're interested in, and do projects as well. Doing things outside of school is probably your main priority if you can't find opportunities within school. That's what I wish I did more of, is, spending more time outside of school, kind of studying, leveling up my skills. Another thing people can do is go to their local community college and find courses that, you know, they feel like they want to learn, know more about. Once again, if it's related to your major, you can get, a lot of prior experience before college. And I think that would be super beneficial to, uh, you know, deciding which major you want to pursue.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So, how did you decide what extracurriculars you wanted to start and do, and how do you think that helped you throughout the college application process?
So extracurriculars, I think, from what I know, the best tip I would have for extracurriculars is just, if it's related to your major, you probably want to do more of those. If it's related to the field you're interested in, that would probably have a greater impact on your application than doing things that are, not as related. For example, I started a CS club during high school, and that was one of my main things on my application. And I decided to do that because I knew, I was interested in helping, younger people learn about computer science, but I also knew that it would be like a huge thing on my application as well. Um, uh, Another example is, like, I'm also a piano player, and I do, things like that outside of CS, but that would be something I would put, near the end of my application, where it would not be as relevant as, it wouldn't be as relevant for my major. So that's how I kind of decided what extracurriculars I wanted to do. Prioritize the ones that are related to your major, because I feel like that would have more of an impact on your application than the ones outside. It's always nice to have other ones, to show that you're kind of well rounded, but also specializing in a particular area might kind of show the admissions officers that, you're super passionate about this one particular thing that you really want to get in for.
Okay,
Yeah.
so talking about clubs, how do you think clubs impacted your college application? Like, do you think that was your main thing, or did you have other things that were more overpowering than clubs?
I think it was one of my main things. Um, it probably had a pretty good impact. I think being involved with clubs, especially having a club position, shows your involvement a lot. Because, like, having a role in a club means that you did quite a lot of work for that club throughout, 1 or 2 years. Kind of like you're doing right now, right, with this college mentoring thing. That's great. You can show that you've been doing all these things outside of school, uh, where, you're trying to either level up your own skills or help others become more interested in a field. Um, so yeah, I think, and also the leadership part of it as well, right? You want to show that you can kind of run a club, you can manage kind of a team, you can set goals and then achieve them over time. So it was definitely a major thing. I think clubs are definitely pretty important.
Okay, amazing. So moving on to like to recommendation sources, what resources did you find the most helpful when you were studying at high school and moving on to college and during your application journey? Like, did you use any websites, mentors, or any guidance counselors?
So I had a guidance counselor who was, I think she probably still is, an application reviewer for a certain university. And she did give me really good feedback on my essays. So I definitely would recommend, if, people who are applying to college right now, if you can find a counselor, they are pretty helpful with writing essays, especially. Obviously, this costs money though, so if you can't afford it, then don't worry about it. The best thing you can do is just focus a lot on writing your best possible essays. Um, and otherwise, I think there are probably advisors at high schools that can, take a look at your essays as well. But it's always important to, get feedback from as many people as you can who can, like, review your essay thoroughly. Um, and another tool I used just for application tracking was, like, keeping a Google Sheets document to track all of my applications. and like, the school names, whether, what type of school it was, like a reach or a safety, um, and, the status of your application, the date you submitted, things like that. But yeah, definitely would recommend a counselor for sure.
Okay, so perfect. So, reflecting on your journey in Evergreen Valley High School, what do you think had the biggest impact, such as extracurriculars, clubs, or even like the classes you took, such as like the AP classes? Because you're talking about how the classes have an impact on what you want to do in the future. Which one do you think had like the biggest impact overall on your application?
Um, it is pretty hard to tell what exactly was the biggest factor in my application. If anything, I would say it was my overall interest in my major, just throughout all extracurriculars combined, not just, one or two clubs. It was just everything combined, um, showing the fact that I was uh, passionate about this major and also, qualified at least a little bit for the major. I would encourage everyone to try their uh, best in, their classes at school as well, because I feel like, I don't want to say this, but I feel like it's uh, you know kind of inevitable, but GPA also affects your application a little bit. At least it doesn't make or break your application, but certainly it's important for certain universities more than others. um, so I would say overall, all activities combined, showing your interest in your major, showing, that you're well-rounded outside of your major, and, how are you doing in school? Great, right?
Okay,
So yeah.
perfect. So I wanted to ask a little about your internships, 'cause I saw that you had a couple. I wanted to see how did internships really impact your application? And like, do big or small companies make a difference?
Yeah, so um, I had one internship. It wasn't really an internship though. It was more of a shadow program at Cisco. They had a specific program for high schoolers where a bunch of engineers came in and gave presentations. And in the end, we got to do like very small intern projects and presentations. So um, I don't know if that had a huge impact, but it's definitely nice to have experiences with companies like that outside of school. So I would say it's definitely one of the nice to haves on your application. It would be if I was a college admissions officer looking at an application and I saw names like, oh, I did this program with Cisco, I did this program with this particular big company that, they specifically did this program to help high school students become more, involved with the specific field they're interested in. I think that would help a decent bit because it shows that you got some experience uh, before college. So
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
So like, how would you go about finding internships? Because I know the Cisco internship, you said didn't have a lot of impact, but it's very interesting. So I want to see, how did you go about finding it, and like, was it challenging?
It's just a lot of web searching for finding it, to see if, because opportunities for high school students will be limited just because, you know, most companies are going to be looking for college students to actually intern for like money, for paid internships. But for high school, there are definitely some programs out there offered by companies and universities, which it's all by, online search. Maybe if you have, also if your parents have connections with anybody, definitely ask people to see if their companies are doing anything for high schoolers. Um, and did you ask something else as part of that question? I don't remember.
No, that was it. But yeah, thank you. So just
Yeah.
reflecting on your journey throughout the Evergreen Valley High School, what's one thing you would do differently now with like your current knowledge? If you could go back in time, like what's one thing you would do that you think would have a major impact on your application?
I think I would take more community college courses. I feel like it's something that people don't think about as much, but I think it shows that if you did more classes outside of your classes at school that are more specialized toward the thing you're interested in, it's like, you're building skills and becoming more qualified over time outside of school. And I think in that way, you're kind of standing out from the rest of the people who are applying to your same major. You're showing that you might be more qualified for this particular program at like a a really good university. They might consider you a bit more because you're uh, taking extra courses. And I would say I kind of wish I was more active in clubs. I know I started one club, but I think I could have done a lot more. Just being active as a member in other clubs, going to their meetings regularly, spending more time with people who shared my interests. Um, Obviously, that's not like a direct impact on the application, but I think it results in more involvement overall throughout high school, just being more active in clubs in general. And I think that's about all for the impact on the application. But one other thing that I wished I did was just researching colleges themselves and the programs they offer, and their general education requirements, their clubs and organizations, and things like that. So where you could, specifically select colleges where, you really want to go to them, and then you can kind of maybe tailor your application toward their program. For example, if they have like a slightly different computer science program, and you see classes that are different from other universities there, you can show that you kind of have experience in one of those areas. Maybe they'll consider you a bit more. uh, but these are more like indirect tips. I would just say for the most impactful ones, it would be community college courses and clubs.
Okay, yeah. So talking about clubs, do you think that finding a club is more impactful or just being a member of multiple clubs? Because I know nowadays, especially in Evergreen right now, it's really hard to find clubs because there's not a lot of originality. But which one do you think is more impactful to your application?
Yeah, so founding a club is definitely a great thing to do, but not everybody can just found clubs out of nowhere, because it's a whole process and it takes time and you need other people to join you. Not everybody has that. So what you can do is you can be an active member in a club, and you can over time apply for officer positions, and hold a position for a year or two. That's probably an easier thing to do, uh, where if you're active, you get to know everybody there, and people vote you up to be an officer. Then you're all set. I think that would be probably the best way to be the most involved in clubs. But if you see that clubs aren't being original, or if they're not doing a particular thing that you wish clubs would have done, you can always create a new club for that. For example, the club I started, it was the Computer Science Honor Society. There wasn't much of teaching middle schoolers and elementary schoolers computer science in other computer science clubs. So what my friends and I did was we just started a club, you know, based on that. The very first few things we did was just teaching uh, younger students computer science, and that was pretty much all our club was about the first 2 years.
Okay,
Um,
amazing.
yeah.
I wanted to ask about volunteering services. I wanted to see if you did a lot of volunteering and if that had any impact towards your application.
I volunteered at a language school that I went to. This was like a Sunday school type thing. And I volunteered after I graduated from that school. I volunteered. It was just once a week, every Sunday, where I would teach younger kids our language. And I think, obviously, this is not related to my major or anything, but just having volunteer experience is probably pretty beneficial, I would say, to your application, um, because it shows that not only are you, you know, increasing your own skills, you want to help others as well. You're helping other people grow as well. So I would say volunteering. I didn't do a lot of it, but I at least had one experience, as well as I guess teaching younger kids computer science. I don't know if that counts as volunteering, but that was part of my club. That could be counted as well. Uh, but I think yeah, teaching others, helping others, that is pretty valuable, I would say.
Okay, well, perfect. That's really all I had for you today. Thank you so much for being able to spend some time with me today and help others with their application process.
For sure, no problem.
Okay, so until next time, take care. Thank you, everyone.